Everybody in gaming wants games to fail. It's very bizarre. Nadeshot calls out gaming fans for negativity on games. Let's watch the whole thing, because I saw a lot of people talking about it, and I think this is a really interesting conversation.
There's something weird that has happened in the gaming community. I'm serious, too, when I say this. For some reason, everybody in the gaming community wants games to fail. It's very bizarre. Like, the whole thing with XDefiant is still, like, stumps me to this day. People complain about not having enough games to play, but when new games come out, even before they have played it, they're like, that game sucks, I'm not going to play it. Listen, man, if we keep tearing down these studios trying to make good games, like, yeah, not every single one is going to be fun, and not every single one is going to be a hit. But if we're sitting here, like, preying on its downfall before the game even comes out, what do you think's going to happen? Nobody's going to be investing in gaming and making new games. And you're not going to have shit to fucking play. You're going to be sitting here playing MW2 Remastered Edition. You're going to be sitting here trying to play fucking the same old games for the 1,000th time because these billionaires...
We'll talk about, because I think this is a part of a major problem that he's talking about.
Billion-dollar
and I'm completely
publishers.
against that.
They're not going to greenlight any new games, any new concepts, any new IP. I mean, I try to put myself in the...
Now that's an impressive water jug.
Shoes of myself when I was like 16 years old, but I can't. I was excited for new games when they came out. The problem is now we have too many options. We've seen too many different games. We've seen too many different ways to interact with games. Like,
because I very much disagree with what he's saying. I'll let him cook.
When Halo 3, Gears of War 1, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare dropped the same fucking year, bro, we were lined up outside of GameStops, whether it was in a mall or attached to a fucking Hollywood Video, sitting there waiting, camped out, drinking fucking Mountain Dew, waiting for these new games for the midnight release.
I think I've never had Mountain Dew.
Everybody was so excited about it. Now when new games come out, we're fucking sitting around a goddamn fire witch artifact, like doing a satanic ritual for the game to fail miserably. I don't really get it.
Okay, so I very, very much disagree with this. Now, maybe it's because I am in different internet circles. However, I think a lot of the time, when people are saying they're not going to play the game instantly, it's for good reason. And I think the examples he actually raises right here...
New games. In 2007, when Halo 3, Gears of War 1, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare dropped the same fucking year,
all of those games fundamentally shifted the direction of the previous games. All of those games were new ideas. The problem now is that a lot of the games that come out, because like you didn't see anyone, at least not in my experience, and if you did, those were genuinely Twitter weirdos. No one prayed for the downfall of Baldur's Gate 3. There was drama around Baldur's Gate 3 that it's too good. That was genuinely a conversation. Baldur's Gate 3 is too good. When Valheim came out, an indie game, you didn't see anyone praying for the downfall of that. Like, I mean, okay, let's not talk about indie games. Let's talk about let's talk about big games. Elden Ring. You didn't see anyone complaining about Elden Ring and praying for the downfall of that. Again, the conversation was more so that people are goofy for saying that it's bad. People were overly positive about the game. I think the problems he raises are with games that are genuinely uninteresting. The new Assassin's Creed, right? A lot of people, from what I understand, are saying that it basically functions very similar to Valhalla. It's just a different setting. For some people, it is enough. For others, not so much. What else is a game that is like... Well, Call of Duty is the same game every single year, basically. So, big surprise, people are not, like, very excited about a new Call of Duty. Because, like, how can you be excited about the same thing year over year? Helldivers is a good example. Exactly. Helldivers came out of the blue. No one was praying for its downfall. Everyone was being overly positive. All the sports games, no one's excited about those because, big surprise, the only thing they do is make you pay more money. And the same thing for Call of Duty, by the way. Call of Duty is $80 now. $80! It's more expensive than any other AAA game, and it is the same concept that has not been redefined since, like, I don't even know, like Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2. It is fundamentally the same game. Of course, people just are not excited anymore because there are no new ideas. And the new ideas that come out, well, we don't talk about those because those are exceptions. I don't think this is true in even the slightest way. if you go on Twitter, it might seem like everyone is being extremely negative, but I think people who actually play games and don't complain about games on Twitter, there are so many good games. It is insane. The only games people complain about are ones that have monetization issues attached to it, which again, Assassin's Creed is another one, right? Even World of Warcraft, a lot of the reasons people complain about World of Warcraft, paid mounts, early access, microtransactions, the WoW token, all of these different things, they just compound and compound and compound, and at some point people are no longer excited because you're just like, you're making us pay more for essentially the same idea. Like, come on, how long can this keep up? You gotta try something new, you know? And what he said here, people will stop investing into big IPs, that would be good. Because the issue with gaming now is that people only invest in big IPs because it's safe return on investments. People need to start thinking outside of the box and making smaller games. And even games like Far Cry, right? Far Cry hasn't redefined its formula. Basically ever. Like 3 to 4. And by the way, you can see this very directly. When you go from Far Cry 3 to 4, it is fundamentally the same game, and naturally, some interest dropped off between 3 and 4. For most people, their favorite is 3. If you go from 5 to 6, it is the same thing. 6 is an overbloated mess of 5. And a lot of people don't like 6, including myself. I think it's a horrible game. 5, on the other hand, was decent, right? All of these games that are a long-running series, they become stagnant. And maybe it's good that they fail, and people stop investing in them. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we like in a certain to a certain extent, maybe it's good that people would return to like the business model of investing into 20 like different things and seeing which one succeeds. Basically just venture capitalism all over again. Usually it's a bad thing because it incentivizes pooling of resources in a certain area as soon as one pops off, right? That's basically what we saw back in the day. But at the same time, a lot of these super big studios, they don't experiment. They just don't. So yeah, people are not excited. People are excited about Palworld, a game that completely broke all conventions of the genre. By the way, another example, the internet's Wonder Boy, Zelda. People were incredibly excited about Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom came out, and people are just like, it's Breath of the Wild but with building. Even that, Nintendo, internet's Wonder Boy, the best games of all time for many people because it's mostly millennials on the internet. Even that grew, like had less excitement around that than Breath of the Wild because it's not reinventing the formula. So I don't think this is true for anything. I think any game that is trying new things and is trying them in an authentic fashion will have this complaint. Overwatch 1, best game ever. Overwatch 2, useless trash. Another example. All of these different things. It applies to every single game. Even the Valve upcoming game, Deadlock. The first thing people said when they saw it, it's a hero shooter, I'm not interested. It was nothing about the Valve game, it was about hero shooters and how ubiquitous they are. These genres need to be played with more. That is what we saw in the early 2000s. There were no, the fact that I see you saying Ubisoft formula, let me read that out. The Ubisoft formula got old fast, and people will play games multiple hours daily, will drop a game very fast that feels when that feeling creeps in. And that's what I mean. The fact that the term of Ubisoft formula exists proves my point down to a T. When you can describe a game as Ubisoft formula, that is, it's basically like a thing that has been packaged in a new skin, essentially, right? And by the way, this also applies to World of Warcraft. The point at which I quit WoW, well, I didn't quit WoW, I just stopped playing it for like a prolonged time, is when I got a quest that told me to complete world quests. I saw the underlying treadmill, and I was like, I am done. This is the same thing I've been doing. I knew that it was the same thing I was doing, but at a certain point, you break that illusion, and I'm done. I'm out. You've lost me. And this is true for all of these games. And all the established IPs have fallen prey to this. That's why when Elden Ring comes out, and like Elden Ring comes from FromSoft, they made Dark Souls, they made Bloodborne, right? But when Elden Ring comes out, and it's open world, and it's a completely different game, so, wow, big surprise, no one complains. Because it reinvented the same formula and did it again, just better. Like, it iterated on the same formula, right? The same reason why people really, really like zombies in Call of Duty. Zombies from World at War to Black Ops 2 and now to this has kind of changed as well. So no. And another example, Hearthstone's Battlegrounds, I guess. When the auto battler genre, very weird, full mouthful. When that came out, people were excited because it was a new idea, and no one thought it should lose, like fall off or something. That's not true though. Marvel Rivals just came out. It's a hero shooter, but everyone loves it because it's played with the genre and amplified, focusing on team synergy. And I agree with you 1,000,000%, except when Marvel Rivals was announced, people called it budget Overwatch. That was the single most heard thing I saw on the internet. This is budget Overwatch, or this is Marvel's Overwatch. And again, it is a formula, but it iterated on the formula, which, as you say, it's successful. I don't know how successful it is, because I don't know basically anything about it, but it's definitely more successful. The reason why people sort of think about games failing immediately is tried and tested formulas that have grown stale. We just talked about this with isekai anime. People know what an isekai is. We are done with them. I am done with them. Clearly, the market is not. And I think when you start experimenting with these, that's when people are going to get like more excited about them. I think this idea of games failing has never been true. And by the way, like this right here, the real issue for all of this is things around the game. A lot of the time you'll see, even I myself do this, right? Like, a lot of the time you need to remember that game designers didn't decide that you're going to have to pay for early access. No one working on like a sword animation thought to themselves, wouldn't this make my game better if my player had to buy early access and play the game earlier? No one thought about this. Not a single person. So a lot of this has to do with business models and everything else that surrounds a video game that actually has nothing to do with the video game. So be it the person who's releasing it, the thing that it is associated with, like the microtransactions and stuff. All these things do affect the way people look at games. Beta keys were going for full price of a AAA game on eBay. You literally couldn't get a free code even up Twitch drops. And by the way, you reminded me of something very, very funny. Let me see if I can go on the Blizzard store. You want to see why people are not excited about games? I'll show you why people are not excited about games. $90. Right? We need $90. Number one, Trader's Tender. If you don't play WoW, this is supposed to be a cool little thing that the devs put in to buy cool looking things. It's basically like a battle pass, but it's not a battle pass because you don't have to pay for it. You just have to play the game, right? It's a fun little mechanic, and they tainted it. They tainted it immediately. You can buy it, which completely removes the whole principle of us already paying a subscription and earning this cool thing on top of that, right? Number one. Number two, selling transmog in a game that is all about collecting transmog and making like your character look cool. We'll talk about that. 3 days early access. You have friends who can't afford to pay $90 for the game? Feels bad, man. You're not going to be playing with them. Feels bad. Feels bad. And most importantly, the fact that you can put beta access to a video game as a benefit for buying a more expensive package. This is what gaming is devolved to. Back in my day, when I was a young lad, beta testers were a thing in the company. It was called the QA department, short for quality assessment or assurance. The developer tested the beta version of the game. Now, you, the player, have the privilege of paying Blizzard $90 for testing their game. And missing the launch weekend and going to work the next week means they'll miss an entire week. Yeah, this is the best part, right? If you look at this is very, very funny. This is very, very funny. But this is the American one, whatever. If you look at this very carefully, right, you're gonna see that the early access period begins on June 22nd. June 22nd is a Thursday, right? So if you, the average person, Like, you're going to be able to play throughout the weekend, right? It's very, very good. You're going to play through Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And you're going to play with all of your friends. It's going to be a blast. You're all going to have fun, right? And the funny little thing that Blizzard has done here is, if unfortunately you can't afford to give Blizzard $90 to play with all of your friends, you're going to be left alone on August 26th, which is a Monday. It's a funny little thing that Blizzard has pulled here. That's not even true. A lot of people are using this argument that is for the sake of not crashing the servers. The past 3 expansions, I play on the biggest server in the EU. I play on Silvermoon. Is the biggest server in the EU. Not one launch has crashed the server. Blizzard now does launches in instances. You won't break the game. You won't. Not once have I had issues with playing the game. Maybe NA does have them because NA is technically. Oh no, they're doing global launches now. So I don't know. On the EU, it has never been a problem. Not once. BFA was fine. Shadowlands was fine. Legion was fine. Warlords was a mess. Legion was fine. And everything after Legion has been butter smooth. So, I don't think it's a server issue at all. At all. And I use WoW as an example because that's the game I know best. If you don't know, like, just lore recap. World of Warcraft is a subscription-based game where every single 2 years you're supposed to buy an expansion, and this wonderful product also gives you the opportunity to buy microtransactions, right? So you're paying a subscription, you're paying a full-priced box price of the game, right? So $60. And you have the great privilege of also paying for mounts. You have the great privilege of paying for pets. You have the great privilege of paying for toys. You have the great privilege of paying for transmog. You have the great privilege of paying $50 for these game services. And all the other stuff, right? So if you're talking about people not being excited about a game, when I look at a game, and the only thing I see is how I can literally spend like $1,000 on random nonsense in a subscription-based game, yes, I will be slightly bitter. Because I feel like I'm put in like a freaking I don't even know what. Because the argument people always use is you don't have to buy it, right? Cool, I don't have to play it because clearly the freaking the company behind the game, the only thing they want to extract from me is money. When you see stuff like this, the game is designed for getting every single cent out of you, even at the expense of their own game. Because this is stuff that should be in the game. Like, visual stuff should be in the game, right? You go on the store page, right? That's it. You just buy the game. There is like this digital deluxe, but I think the only thing it has is like, it's basically nothing. And you go on the Elden Ring store, right? You go on Elden Ring. Well, now it has the expansion, but you go on Elden Ring, you just buy the game. And that's it. What a wild idea, right? And this is, by the way, this is true. Let's look at Civilization 6. Right? You buy the game, and then they start making money off of you. Civilization 6 was much better for this because they just did big expansions, right? Let me show you something even better. Civ 5. They obviously do massive sales now, so this isn't like totally representative, right? You buy Civ 5, this brand new game that you're so excited about, right? And then you open up this. All these DLC. You can get the whole thing for like $10. It's one of the best games ever made. Massively recommend putting it out there. Civ 5, still the best Civ game. Check Sims 3. It doesn't list all of them because there are 753. You can't see all of them. Oh yeah, and that's even better. Exclusivity on certain things in the game. That's like a chef's kiss on top of everything. You're not playing on the specific console that has paid us money. Well, too bad. You're not going to play the full game. Baldur's Gate 3 had 3-year early access. Well, yeah, that's a bit different, right? Because we're talking about early access in the terms of not paying not to play late, right? So I think we need to clear these terms up, right? So there is early access in the way we've always used early access, and we need to introduce this term for games like World of Warcraft, where you're paying not to play late, right? Because you're not paying to play early. You're not. The game is ready. You're paying not to be late. Nothing about early access in WoW, for example, is early. Nothing about early access in Hogwarts Legacy was early. Nothing about these things is early. I think Hogwarts Legacy at least didn't have the I don't think it upcharged you for playing early though. Maybe it did. I think it did. Yeah, I think it did actually. I think there was a $100 edition. But going back to this, that's why I think a lot of discussions about games are like much more bitter now and much more like you know, tired. You will never hear these conversations around indie games because most indie games are just games. They come out, people enjoy them, and it's the best thing ever, right? Valheim. People still play Terraria. People still play even Minecraft, right? It's no longer really an indie game, but I guess it works. Helldivers is kind of hard to say that it's an indie game. Let me just look at SteamDB. Rust. People love Rust. Rust has been cooking for years. No one's complaining. Path of Exile, technically an indie game. Apex, well, Apex doesn't really count. Baldur's Gate. So yeah. I don't really think it has anything to do with people just being like negative. I think there are very good reasons for being negative. And I think the fact that I went on a roundabout rant about World of Warcraft kind of illustrates that point. Because it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And it's sad, but it is what it is.